Today, we're going to dive into the story of the Indus Sarasvati civilization, an absolutely incredible story of ancient India.
I want you to picture this. We're going back thousands and thousands of years.
I mean, way before the famous pyramids of Egypt were even a thought.
An absolutely incredible civilization had already been born and was thriving, right there on the soil of India. And we're talking about a society so advanced, so sophisticated, that it still just blows our minds today. So where does this story even begin? Well, you have to go back about 8,000 years. The climate in northwest India started to change. The rivers swelled up, the soil became super fertile, and naturally, people started to gather. And what starts as little villages, well, they grow into towns, and before you know it, those towns have transformed into these magnificent cities.
And by about 3,300 BCE, we see it. One of the world's earliest and most advanced urban civilizations is really taking its final shape. This was a huge moment in human history.
Now, when I say cities, I really want you to understand we're not talking about just a few huts clustered together. No way. The most astounding, truly mind-blowing feature of this entire civilization was its network of meticulously planned cities. I mean, they were built with the kind of logic and precision that was literally thousands of years ahead of its time.
Okay, just try to picture this for a second. Entire cities laid out on a perfect grid, perfectly straight roads, all intersecting at perfect 90-degree angles. This wasn't an accident, right? This was deliberate, large-scale urban planning. And get this, nearly every single house had its own private well and its own bathroom. And all of it connected to this incredibly sophisticated covered drainage system. It's an engineering marvel. I mean, it's better than the sanitation systems in some parts of the world even today. It just tells you so much, doesn't it? It points to a society that really, really valued public health, order, and hygiene on a scale that was just unheard of back then. And if we zoom in on one of their greatest cities, Mohenjo-daro, people often call it the pearl of the civilization. We find its most iconic structure, the Great Bath. It's this massive public water tank. And you can just imagine it being a central hub for the community, maybe for religious rituals or just for social gatherings. It's a real testament to how much they focused on life together as a community. And their genius didn't stop at the city limits, oh no. In a place called Lothal, archaeologists found something incredible, the world's oldest known dockyard. And this wasn't just some little pier for parking boats. This was definitive proof that they had advanced skills in maritime trade, and on a massive scale. So it makes you wonder, right? What was life actually like for the people who built all these incredible places? Well, here's what's so interesting. Their society wasn't really built around war. It was all about innovation and trade. You had farmers, potters, really skilled artisans, and super savvy traders. And their innovative spirit is just so clear. For example, the world's very first known use of cotton to make clothes, it comes directly from this civilization. You can imagine their daily life was probably simple but rich, filled with things like board games, little clay toys for the kids, and beautiful personal jewelry like bangles. But maybe the most remarkable thing about them, the thing that really sets them apart, was just how peaceful they seem to have been. You look at their contemporaries, right? Egypt, Mesopotamia, and you find all this evidence of major wars, heavy weapons, big armies. But with the Indus Valley people, archaeologists have found basically no signs of any of that. It seems like their focus was almost entirely on creating prosperity through trade, not conquest. And let me tell you, their trade network was incredibly sophisticated. They were exporting all kinds of goods. We're talking pearls, that famous cotton, precious stones, metals, and sending them as far away as Mesopotamia, which is modern-day Iraq. And how did they manage all this business? Well, they used these unique stone seals. They were often carved with these beautiful, intricate animal figures, like bulls and that really famous unicorn you might have seen. These seals basically acted like a brand logo, a unique identifier for their goods. Super clever. But here's the catch. Despite everything we know about their cities and their trade, we are completely in the dark about what they actually thought, what they believed, what they even called themselves. And that's all because of the biggest puzzle of all, their written language. So, get this. Archaeologists have found over 400 unique symbols that make up what we call the Indus Script. This is a fully developed, complex system of writing, and yet we have no idea what it says.
It remains completely, totally undeciphered. I mean, what stories do these symbols tell? Are they poems, histories, business records? We just don't know. We've never found any long texts, and crucially, we've never found anything like a Rosetta Stone. A tablet with the same text in a known language that could act as a key. So a huge, massive part of this civilization story is just locked away, waiting for someone to finally read it.
So that brings us to the biggest question of all, right? If they were so advanced, so prosperous, so peaceful, why did they disappear? The end of the Indus Valley civilization is honestly just as mysterious as its beginning.
Around the year 1900 BCE, something starts to change. You can see it in the archaeological record. The great cities, they start to decline, and the civilization as a whole just slowly begins to fade away.
It doesn't seem like there was one big, dramatic catastrophe. Instead, the leading theories all point to more gradual environmental changes. Maybe the climate shifted. Or maybe the rivers that were their absolute lifeline just changed course over time. Maybe the monsoons got weaker, which would have totally crippled their farming and led to economic collapse. So slowly but surely, the cities emptied out as people started migrating east, over towards the Ganga Valley. And that's where the next great chapter of Indian history would begin.
And yet, and this is maybe the most important takeaway of all, even though the cities themselves vanished back into the earth, the influence of this great civilization, it never really went away.
Yeah, their bricks and their buildings crumbled to dust, but their ideas endured. They became woven into the very fabric of the subcontinent. You can still see their legacy today. That emphasis on cleanliness in the region, certain concepts of urban planning, traditions in art and jewelry and trade, it's all there. Think about it. Every single time you see a piece of cotton clothing, you're literally seeing a thread that stretches all the way back in time to the Indus Valley.
So that leaves us with one final tantalizing question. Everything we found, every seal, every brick, tells us that India's story begins with this magnificent, mysterious civilization. But just imagine, what else will we learn? What epic poems, what incredible histories, what names of forgotten kings and queens will finally be revealed if that Indus Script is finally solved? What untold stories are still just waiting to be heard?